class. This morning, to start class, we're going to do a question, we'll say. So what's going on right now in the political field, we'll say? It's pretty big. The election. Why, is that, important to, America, we'll say, and also just in general? Does anybody have any idea?
It's going to kind of change the course of our country because there's also Supreme Court seats up for grabs and that kind of stuff too. So it's not just the president, but also.
Exactly. Does anybody know the origin of democracy itself?
It's sort of an Athens.
You knew that beforehand, not just looking at the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Was it Greek government?
Yeah, so today in class we're going to be talking about Greek government, but then also we're going to be talking about democracy and also oligarchy, which was the Spartan model for government, because both of those hold relevance today in different aspects. This is just a brief description of what a democracy and oligarchy are. Democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of the state, typically through elected representatives. And an oligarchy is a small group of people having control of the country, organization, or institution. Today we'll be looking at Athens and Sparta, two of the greatest city-states in ancient Greece, and looking at their style of government and which one was better, which one was worse, what was good, what was bad, and then we'll go from there. All right, Athens. Athens was considered a direct democracy, which means citizens voted for legislation and executive bills, but there was a special twist behind this. So how many people do we have? We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, because of how Athens worked, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of you couldn't vote because you were women. Now, of the remaining people in this class, I'm assuming that Billy and Steven don't hold any land specifically. Yeah, we'll say no. So they couldn't vote either. In Athens, the only people that could vote were males who were citizens. They couldn't be slaves or just foreigners. And they also had to have a significant plot of land to their name. Of those people that could vote, there were 3 types of seats that they could hold. There was the assembly, which any Athenian male could attend, which they voted on the legislation. They held anything based on what the day, what the people wanted to decide on that day. And they also tried political crimes, which was a little confusing because that was also their court system. But they had 2 levels of trial, so I guess it makes sense. Then they also had the council, which was 500 members elected by lot each year. This group dealt with political matters, financial matters, pretty much anything that applied to the state itself. And then the last level of Athenian democracy was the court, which was taken. There were a jury of 200 was required minimum for any level of court system, and there was actually no judge. There was a jury, a prosecutor, and a defendant. Besides that, anybody could really go up. Sparta in itself, they had several levels of ruling government. They had 2 kings, which was quite confusing if you look at the history of Sparta. Who decided on pretty much any matter that they thought it was good for them to decide on. They were, in of themselves, just a wandering individual who made the decisions for the entire state. Then there were the 5 ephyros, which again was particularly a male position, unfortunately. And these were men that could run for election, be elected. However, they only served a 1-year term, and then they were booted out pretty much. Next level were the Council of Elders. This was a group of men that was 28 men total. You had to be over 60 to be considered Council of Elders, which in and of itself was kind of sad because the life expectancy back then wasn't more than 70. So obviously because of that, the Council of Elders, once you were elected, you stayed in there until you died. Which was actually a funny story of a few of them that actually died during assemblies, which is our next topic, which is the which was the Spartan Assembly, in which any Spartan male over the age of 30 could attend and voice his opinion. However, Spartan females were allowed to attend as well, and they weren't actually allowed to speak their opinion, actually, which was, again, unfortunate. All right, positives of democracy and oligarchy. Democracy, there were equal rights between any male. Any male could voice his opinion, any male could run for office, any male could do anything that was able for him to do. It was open to the public. The only place that they met was the meeting was for their assembly, and there was very little backstabbing and that kind of stuff in the early days of Athenian democracy. Abuse of power, there was significantly less abuse of power. Why is this one? Okay, that's fine. The reason there was no abuse of power because at any time, any Athenian male could raise up a potential problem with any elected official and have a trial right then and there. So say that, we'll say, I have a problem with Stephen, in which he's an elected official, and I just don't like what he's doing. I don't like what he's been trying to get passed in legislation, and I think that he's corrupt, and I want to hold a trial right then and there. What would happen is they would literally drop everything and hold a trial right then and there, which typically Athenian trials only lasted for about 4 hours. The positives of an oligarchy, there was quick decision making because there were only 28 council members and then 5 pharaohs, and then there were also the 2 kings. So besides that, there was quick decision making. Women also could hold certain offices, they specifically kingships or queenships. Besides that, there wasn't that much that they could hold, unfortunately. And then debate was also still relevant because even among the 20 elders, there was a lot of decision making. Unfortunately, there are quite a few negatives considering both democracy and oligarchy. Democracy, no human rights. Slavery was still very relevant. Women literally had no rights besides cooking, cleaning, and providing for their family. And that foreigners themselves were actually considered the dregs of society. Like any foreigner that was in Athens at the time was looked upon horribly. Few elected officials actually. In total, there were only actually 100 elected officials in a democracy out of the total of 1,200 officials that served. The other majority was pretty much just randomly selected, which would be the equivalent of saying that myself, we'll use Stephen again, because I know his major. Me and Stephen decide to switch jobs. I'm going to be a math teacher, he's going to be a history teacher. Now, I don't know about Stephen, but I know nothing about math, and that would be like detrimental to literally any person that's trying to learn math. So that would be horrible. The people's assemblies themselves were only attended by 1/4 of the potential citizens that were at the time eligible to attend assemblies. This was because little or no decision making was accomplished because everyone decided that it was their turn to talk and they wanted to be moderator and they wanted what they wanted to be heard said. So it was really just chaos. Oligarchy, there was no change if you're in power, like the kings were and that the emperors were at the time, then and you passed all the laws that you wanted passed that would make you richer, make you more important, there's really no real importance for you to change. Like if you're already in power and you're already rich and you want to like really make a difference, like that's cool, but then most of these people didn't want to make a difference, they just wanted to be more rich and powerful. Because of this, there was really no freedom of speech in oligarchy because those who actually wanted change were stifled because they were trying to change what was the style at the time.
It's not good to good.
But
It's not good to good.
it wasn't, yeah, that's cool. Alright, based on that, we're going to go to Kahoot. And we're going to do a quick look through that hopefully will be good. I really enjoyed it. I got 100%, so hopefully you guys will too. Yeah. Awesome.
Everybody on board?
We all good?
Alright, so what is a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution? Put to bed, yeah. Nice. Perfect. In Athens, who could vote for legislation? And
Stuff he's always.
this was an elected position that any male citizen could run in and was done annually. Nice. In which government could women hold positions of power? Very nice. And finally, in what system were foreigners mentioned to be discriminated against? Nice, y'all.
Sweet.
Emily, you are our top scorer, and I think we've got almost perfect results on this.
Yeah.
Is it pulling up? So now we're going to switch to that quick thing. So if you all want to pull out that persuasive map that we handed you earlier. Okay, so in this portion, you all are going to be writing a short essay, basically from the viewpoint of a citizen of one of these city-states. In it, you're going to be trying to convince the citizen of another city-state that your system of government is better than theirs and why they should adopt it. And so we're going to use this persuasive outline to really help us organize our thoughts and use the facts that we've learned today in order to create a proper essay. So we are going to enter my name, and the title is going to be Greek Democracy. This is just me. Sorry, my spelling is off for this. Okay, so you're going to notice the top box in all of yours is the thesis or the introduction. In order to get you ideas for this, because we're going to need a thesis statement, we're going to use what we call the RAFT model. So R in the RAFT model stands for role. And so we are wondering, who are you? Can anybody answer that question for me? A citizen. In this particular essay, we're all going to do it together in the same sort of format and style. So we are all going to be citizens of Athens. Okay. And the second part of the RAFT model is audience. And so who are we writing to, or to whom are we writing? Anybody?
A citizen of the other government.
Citizen of Sparta. Okay. And then the third part of RAFT is format. And so how are we writing this? We are writing a persuasive essay. And then finally with draft, T is our topic. And so our topic is going to be democracy versus oligarchy. Okay, and so you're going to notice on the next portion that we have several main reasons, okay? And so if our thesis is going to be something like Athenian democracy, I can write that, Athenian democracy is better than a Spartan oligarchy, we need to offer reasons to support that. Otherwise it's just our opinion and there's no reason for the Spartan to agree with us or even change. And so we're going to come down and look at our main reasons here. And so reason number one, can anybody tell me what maybe one of the positives of democracy was from the PowerPoint? Thanks.
It's the better representation of the people.
Better representation of the people, that's perfect. And then if you'll notice, below that main reason box, you're going to have further reasons. And so we're actually going to go scrolling down on that one. Why is better representation of the people good? Because better representation is a great thing, but the Spartan himself needs to know why that's good because maybe he's never experienced that in Sparta. Can anybody tell me, and this is a little critical thinking here, so we've got to think outside the box necessarily, why better representation might be good for a human being? Steven or Anna?
If you only have like one type of person that you're like pulling your information from, it's not going to like, get the whole of the people.
Yes.
It's just like the male opinion.
It's all of the people's opinions. And why is that good?
I mean, it's good because you're like if without that you only have one person's opinion, and the people want to feel heard within a government.
Alright, so the people want to feel heard. Okay, and so you're going to have three reasons there. We can't run through them all currently right now, but as you do some more critical thinking on that point, you're just going to come up with more reasons because you're trying to convince a Spartan who may never have experienced any say in government that this is a good thing that he wants to adopt. Okay, and so reason number two, can anybody tell me another benefit of democracy? Christy?
What was the question?
Oh, sorry. We're looking for a benefit of democracy
Benefit of
based on this PowerPoint. Can you remember any of the reasons? If not, that's fine. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah.
There's some elected officials.
Some elected officials. I think that might go with better representation. Let's see. We can go back to the PowerPoint here real quick. Here on democracy we have equal rights open to the public, abuse of power, or inclusivity. So we could enter equal rights in there. And so, can anybody tell me who had equal rights in Athens? Yes.
The males holding, your citizens holding land.
Males holding land. And so maybe in Sparta, and this isn't necessarily applicable today, but maybe in Sparta, the men holding land are being superseded by any free person who has any right to anything, though they own no land. And so you might be speaking to an Athenian or Spartan citizen who's got tons of land but no say, and so he might find this to be extremely persuasive because he would get more say in an Athenian democracy as opposed to the oligarchy. Other reasons why equal rights might be better in Athens. It seems a little foreign to our senses because it's not necessarily that which we're used to here in America, but it's something that is really just something we have to search to in Athenian democracy because equal rights means something completely nowadays as opposed to what it meant to them back then. So we do have to wrap things up. So in your reason 3, you're going to have another reason from this PowerPoint. So either abuse of power, inclusivity, basically taking care of corruption or including multiple types of people. And then finally, once you've done all those, you're going to come to a conclusion. And the conclusion in a persuasive essay actually needs to be very strong. And so if you, going back to our thesis here, Athenian democracy is better than Spartan oligarchy. What does the Spartan need to do if we're right on this? Can you tell me, Stephen?
To change, like
To
if
change.
you're right, then
Yeah.
to change.
And so in that bottom box, you need to have a call to change. The Spartan himself needs to see all these reasons as a reason for him or her to change and want democracy. And so, as a conclusion, you all will be writing this essay here at home, and I will expect it due back next week. So, thank you for your time.
Woo.